Hello, my name is Mark and welcome to I Am Organic Gardening. I'm currently in my basement, which is my grow room for my farm. And the question is, where's all my tomato plants, peppers, and eggplants? I haven't even started them yet. I've been watching the weather for the last 3 years, and it's just not an effort for me to start them early, whether in my grow room or my greenhouse, is because even just 2 days ago, we got down below 36 degrees, and tomato plants and eggplants and peppers are nightshades, and they hate that type of temperature. And if you have that temperature for more than 5 days in a row, which we were very close to here in Zone 6B in the state of New Jersey, in my specific area, that it actually will hurt them or stunt them. What they do enjoy is at least 55 degrees at night or higher. And I prefer it at least knowing that it's like at least 60 degrees at night. Now, how do I know this over time? Is that when I used to plant my tomato plants out years ago, we had that type of temperatures by, let's say now, May 24th. What I discovered over time is my tomato plants were doing very good later on the season, but I also got a lot of volunteer tomato plants that were leftover seeds from some of the heirlooms I planted. And those tomatoes just took off. And I did get some fruit off the other tomatoes ahead of time. Now, it wasn't a lot, and the taste was it was there, but it could be better. Now, the volunteer plants that grew outside were superb. Taste-wise, everything. Plant health, you name it, because it grew in the original soil. So I'm going to do kind of a combination of both, and I want to find out. I'm going to start them inside for about 2 weeks instead of, say, 6 to 8 weeks, and then move them outside. And there's going to be a very small plant, but in a larger container. And I'm going to see if I can catch up on those benefits of, let's say, a natural volunteer plant instead of this way. And what I can do is kind of show you that over time in other future videos that things are going to be okay if you want to start them later on. So one of the benefits that I have is I have a grow light, which for the next 2 weeks when I have these plants in my house or in my basement, is that I can control the amount of sunlight that I can give to them, which is a huge advantage than being outside because, again, in the last 2 or 3 weeks we've been getting rain and cold weather, and we don't have that good direct sunlight for those tomato plants to start. Plus I have a heating mat and I also have a thermostat. And I'll keep my heating mat about, let's say, 85 degrees once they sprout, and then I'll turn it back down to about, let's say, 80 degrees to keep them going. And the light will be on for about 12 hours a day. So what I do for potting mix is I usually use my own leaf mold that I have on the farm. Now I know a lot of people don't have that, so I also want to show you this. This is a core potting soil, or a brick of core. Now core is a coconut core from coconuts, and they dry it out and press it into this beautiful brick. Now this one produces 2 gallons of, let's say, core after you add it to a container with no holes in it, and you add water to it, and it expands and gives you this beautiful moist product that is great for potting mix. I recommend this definitely over peat moss because it doesn't dry out as quickly and it doesn't stay as wet as peat moss, and there's just so many other advantages with it. And the other item I have here is my worm castings. Now for 1 brick that I use here of this coconut core that does 2 gallons of, let's say, mix here, now I will add into that at least 2 cups of worm castings to this ahead of time. So let's say this is 2 cups that I'm adding in, and I'll just take, let's say, 3 handfuls, or you can measure out 2 cups for that 2 gallons and mix that in. Now it's not a lot because you're going to do something else to it later on. Now we just move that into a small container. Now I'm going to plant them up directly into a larger container already. Now a lot of people use what they call solo cups, and they're usually red. Now these I just buy because I own a greenhouse and I can able to get a discount on them, and they're very cheap. These only cost me about like 5 cents, but I got to buy 1,000 of them. So, but anyway, we'll do this. We'll fill this up like so, up to the rim here, and now that's going to compress downwards after we fill it up with water. So that's what we're going to do next, is we're going to fill up a bunch of these and put them into a tray. Now I have about 12 pots filled up, and they're inside a seeding tray, your standard seeding tray, and the seeding tray has no holes in it. So now what I just do is something simple, is I add 2 seeds to each pot, like so, because in case one doesn't grow, I don't have to worry about it. And we just add to every single one, just 2. Now, the best thing is, and I'll continue to hold down the line, now I just grabbed some worm castings and I covered the top of the soil here with about, let's say, a 1/4 inch of worm castings. Now worm castings, I want to add this in, I did a little series on the worm castings also too. Worm castings, and what's great about this, worm castings have bacteria and fungi already in the castings compared to a sterile peat moss, and this is a good bacteria and good fungi. Now that's going to add growth to that coconut core, which is organic, and also that comes along too is your nematodes and protozoa, and also that these plant nutrients of the worm castings are 100% available right now to that seedling, and also that seedling is going to be coated with that bacteria and fungi in the roots as soon as it starts growing, and is going to give you a healthier plant than anything else that you can get. The next step now is watering. We're not going to water the tops at all. We're going to water from the bottom. So we're going to fill up the tray the very first time, at least a 1/2 inch of water, because it's all going to get soaked up into that coconut core. It's going to act like a very strong sponge and wick it up from the bottom all the way to the top. And you know that you're completed with this is because you'll see the worm casting start turning wet, because that water is going to be sucked up through the coconut core to the worm castings. And that's it. So then in a future reference, you're going to see as soon as those worm castings dry out a little bit, you're going to add just a 1/4 inch of water to the bottom as necessary to keep that wet. You never want to wet the surface of this at all. And the reason you're going to do this is because you're not going to have to worry about any type of fungal disease or nothing else either. It's always better to water from the bottom up. Now, I also use a larger pot from the begin with instead of like a cell pack, which is this. Let me grab one. Now, a lot of people will start this inside their house, something like I called a cell pack. Now, since I'm only going to keep them here for 2 weeks and take them outside, they're going to be kind of in a windy area and more intense sun to harden them off earlier growing wise. But also is that I want enough moisture in the pot that they don't dry out. You never want your plants to dry out because that will hurt them. It was extremely easy to do. Just 2 products that you can find online on Amazon and have them delivered to your house. Now, this I will give you updates all the time, and we'll see if I'm too late planting or how they're going to go through the season. But I have confidence, and I have confidence in you being an expert garden. Now, the only difference between an expert garden and a beginner is that the expert garden made a lot more mistakes ahead of time and has learned a lot more. That's all it is. So enjoy. I thank you very much. Give it a thumbs up if you can. And if you can, share it. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe. And I'll come out shortly with another video. Knock on wood that we're going to have great weather, hopefully next week. And if not, we'll just do other things. But thank you very much. We'll talk soon. And have a happy Memorial Day.